Quick video here of converting a 12 volt kids ATV to 18 volts. This is currently for sale where I am locally, and I'm just making it for a prospective buyer, but I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube of these functioning in 18 volts and rather convoluted videos on how to convert them to 18 volts, and I figured I'd just make something really quick so you can see that it's relatively easy and anybody could do it, and it really enhances the experience. So this is an older model. It had like a battery indicator light here. You have to cover it up, otherwise my daughter kept thinking it was running out of batteries, because I'm assuming the voltage does strange things with the gauge. But in 2 it'll just spin the tires on concrete. 1 is essentially the old 2, and 2 is now a much higher speed. Reverse still works at the, I think at pretty much the same speed as it did before. But under the seat, I already took the screw out. This is what you're looking at. So for the seat, you have to make a few modifications in the ribs. Now, I don't have a monitor showing me what I'm looking at here, so I'm guessing, because this is just an iPhone. But you can see it has ribs down the center, and you just have to trim from here to here for the width of the battery, and you're trimming off these reinforcing in these 2 spots just to get a little extra height for the batteries under there. Now where that puts you on the seat is in this section, and the kids in general are sitting quite a ways back here, so it's made no difference in the strength of the seat. The seat still seems very strong. So really this is the only physical modification you have to make to the unit to make it work. And I mean, I don't think this is going to affect it in any way, shape, or form. So that's all you have to do. I just used an Olfa knife and scored it and just broke it. You can see the cuts are still rough. Took about 2 minutes. So this is what the batteries look like in. You can see the stock plug is still in place. I didn't cut that, but if you have one of these, you'll notice the battery cage is missing. There was a plastic base and a plastic top. You just lose those. So I'm going to spread this out on the bench so you can have a peek at it. I just wanted to show you what it looks like installed. This is just packing foam from things you buy on Amazon. And what's funny is, of all the glues that you can use, because foam isn't an easy thing to glue, my daughter had like one of those Yoo-hoo sticks just for making crafts. Worked really well. Dried quickly, the foam doesn't come off. And that's what I use. So just put a little foam in there. Normally there's a piece of foam on the top. It's just not in here right now, just to protect this top wire from possibly rubbing through on the seat. I've laid out in front of me here all of the things you need to convert it to 18 volts. This is it. Some of this comes with the original one. If your unit is in good condition, you can reuse the 12 volt battery. I have the original 12 volt battery here. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with it, but I wanted to make sure I ended up with a fresh battery. So this means she could always run it extra time, because I could throw this in. The speed won't be as good, but this is a MP12 12 volt 12 amp hour battery. It's just a standard lead acid battery, so you can reuse yours. It'll save you cost, which means you only have to buy this battery, which is a slim version. So this is a 6 volt 12 amp hour battery, which is exactly 50% of the original battery. You can see its width is, if you put 2 of these together, it's this battery. I'll try to find the link to where I bought this. It wasn't very expensive, but I bought both from the same manufacturer just so I could have 2 fresh batteries. So this in series gives you your 18 volts for the unit. All you need of your own, if you're willing to do a little tiny bit of chopping on the original cables, is like a 8-inch piece of wire. This is 12 gauge, a couple of connectors for the end, and some heat shrink. Now I had colored electrical tape just to make this easy for whoever buys this after me. I didn't have this set up like this because it just became a habit of how to plug it in, but frankly this means my daughter got used to plugging it in because she knew what she was doing. There's very little that can go sideways on you here. I see a lot of these videos incorporating a ton of protection. The whole unit's plastic. If this was bare wire inside there, you would have to short terminals together on this with one of these bare wires in order to get one of these batteries to really pump out a ton of current. This is the stock battery, so if the unit starts drawing, it's going to pop this little ATC fuse. This was screwed into the original cradle. I just unscrewed it and wired it. So you can see the original red wire has a slightly different color than this red wire, because this wire I made myself. So you have to solder, or this wire is also under here, but I chose to just solder a new one on. You could just use a butt connector or whatnot. So you can see that's it. So I can put this back to original relatively easily. These two, plugging into those, just gives you the 12-volt unit back, and you could run it like it was when it was new. So all you need is some of these slip-on spade connectors. Alright, so this is everything out of the unit. This is all you need to do this modification. What's included with the one that you have is this 12-volt battery here, this plug, its warnings, and this fuse. This fuse is screwed into the plastic cradle that goes around this. I've long since lost that. You could keep it if you want to go back to just a single battery. So all you need to come up with is heat shrink tube, some female push-on connectors, just the crimping type. I would say like a foot of wire. I used 12 gauge power wire. So you need a little 8-inch piece with 2 female adapters on either end. I color coded them for the sale of this unit, and it allowed my daughter to just sort of troubleshoot this as she needed to, because sometimes these spade connectors will come off. You end up crimping these two in over time, because as you plug them on and off and on and off, these will start to spread out and it will slip off easier. So you just take a pair of pliers and pinch it in the middle so it's tight again. She got used to that, so that when the unit would just stop, she understood it was most likely a wiring problem, would just lift the seat off, put this in, and then away you go. She could get back home until I could squeeze these back together. In my case, I didn't trust the original UEFA battery that came with this unit. It's a 12-volt, 12-amp-hour battery. I cycled it through on a charger. It seems good, but I kept it as a spare. So if she ever ran these two down and I had to charge them, she could at least run it around on 12 volts. So it'll save you some money if you only have to buy one battery and 12 inches of wire and a few connectors. But I bought both of these. So I bought another 12 volt, 12-amp-hour battery, and this is a 6-volt, 12-amp-hour battery. It's rubbed off, but it's exactly 50% of this battery. I'll try to put a link down below where I bought these. I do not remember how much this was. It was not expensive. So all of the foam just came from Amazon packages that have showed up over the years. And this is like parts of a milk crate. So you will need some strong double-sided tape. This is held on with the gray 3M super adhesive. So all that does is keep the top battery centered on this battery. Well, as far as these are, it's just the top of a milk crate carton. And you can see they have a slight curve to them. So it just provides a little bit of centering force. When you put this battery on, it can't just fly off. The foam actually has quite a bit of friction, and then this is trapped within the ATV's framework anyway. When you have your batteries on the bench, I'll just throw it together so you can see. I put a little foam on the bottom of this one because it's going to be sitting on the top of that, and you want to give a little space for these terminals. But in essence, what you want to do is, I don't know if there's a good way that I can represent this, but you want this. So you have your plug with its positive and its negative, and you're trying to span across these because they're in series. So it's flowing here through this battery, out of this positive terminal into the negative terminal of this, through this battery, out of this positive terminal into the positive of this. I'm describing it backwards, but that's just how I learned the electron flow. So this is very simple. So all you need to do is bridge the gap here. So you can make your own color coding if you want. I chose black for black, so I didn't have to do anything. I chose greens for the jumper, and then red for the positive. So you cannot connect this incorrectly. Once you've got it set up this way, then you never have to think about it. You can do it while you're asleep. Maybe you have a bit of a buzz going. So all you have to do is set your battery up, take one of these, plug it in to the green, sort of lay it off to the side like that. I have this a little close, but I don't care. Connect the positive from this one to this terminal. Lay this battery on top. Come across the top of the battery and plug it into that terminal, and then plug this into that terminal. Now this would all be normally being done while it's in the unit, and that's it. If you measure here, you have 18 volts right now. It's fuse protected, that if you have a short within the unit, it will pop this fuse. So the only dangerous wire here is really this wire and this wire, because if you short these two together, it's essentially shorting these 2 points together before the fuse. So you would dead short this, and then you're going to let the smoke out. It's going to cause a fire maybe, but the chance of these two shorting together is pretty limited. Everything in here is plastic. I suppose you could do something to isolate these two so they're further apart than the 1 inch. Inside the ATV, this is sort of how it sits. I jam the stuff down the side. This is plugged down here. I don't know how this would short out. People in these conversions seem intent on putting fuses everywhere. I'm more concerned that there's a fault in the unit and this will blow. If there's a fault in some of this wiring, that the only point that could really cause a problem is if these two shorted together. It's worth the risk to me because it's never going to happen. This thing runs for about a half an hour to 40 minutes in this configuration, so every time you have to take it apart to charge it, you're going to be checking these wires. And this has had 2 years worth of use, and you can see little black rub marks. That's the extent of the damage on this wire. And that's it. So this would be in there in 18 volts. The only downside with this setup is that you need to have a charger, because the original charger just has a plug like this on it and plugs in and charges to 12 volts. That would work if you only had the one battery, but you can't connect it and charge it like this. You might be able to put an 18 volt capable charger, but I didn't want to get into that. So you have to get yourself a decent charger. These Schumacher chargers off of Amazon are fantastic. I like this one. It's a maintainer. It's one of the only maintainers I trust to actually leave connected and maintained to a battery. I've had bad experiences with certain brands not floating the batteries like they should. This also will do 6 volts and 12 volts automatically, so you don't have to select anything. You can connect it to either of these. So I bought 2 of these, so that adds a little bit of cost, but everyone should have at least one charger at their house anyway, a maintainer, because this is recovered. This battery wasn't great from new, and just throwing it on this a few times really helped recover it. And I have a marine battery that you can't see that was in our boat, that we got tested at Canadian Tire, which is Canada's, I don't know what you would, Pep Boys, I guess, or something like that. They said the battery was dead, so we bought a new battery for the boat. I brought it home. I used this on it. It would, fully charge. I would just disconnect one lead, reconnect. It would go through the cycle again. I believe if you read the instructions, it has some sort of stuff that it does when it first charges the battery. And this battery is now fine. I have no problems with it. It's now my shop battery for jumping things. So don't just abandon your batteries. Get yourself something decent to charge them up. So that's it. There's not a lot of parts to this, and it makes the ATV go fantastic. I don't have any videos of her riding around on it, but it certainly does wear out the rear tires a lot faster on pavement. It has very limited traction. You can do donuts. Just search videos on YouTube of 18 volt converted kids ATVs. It's great. I would say the runtime's double, because it can run all the way down to like 10 volts, so it has to fall all the way from the 18 volts down to the 10, whereas this one would only fall from 12 volts to 10 volts, and the units basically can't go up any hills at all. So it made it last for her until she was about 8. We had to buy her a gas-powered ATV because it just wasn't cutting it. She weighed about 75 pounds, and going up some of the hills on our property, she didn't like too much. It was too slow. So that's it. I highly recommend getting yourself a 6-volt battery, and this should work with any of these 12-volt toys. Going up to 18 is fine. It's a direct drive DC motor. They do not mind running at a higher voltage. So give it a try for yourself and have fun.